Howdy folks, Craig Levati here with the Houston Museum of Natural Science. This week's episode of the Beyond Bones podcast is all about death by natural causes. That amazing long-running exhibition we got, all about how the natural world's gonna kill you. Or can kill you. Just be safe. Hey folks, Craig Levati here with the Houston Museum of Natural Science. This is the Beyond Bones podcast, Zoomcast, people staring into a computer screen and talking to each other. As always, my co-host is Kat Havens. Kat, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
You are currently in, is that Madame Curie's lab?
It is her lab.
Wow. Okay. Tell the madam I said hey.
Hey, madam.
Hey there.
She's not on. Thinking
she's
it's
not
good
on.
That we have a Geiger counter.
Does she want to jump on the chat, or is she just gonna?
She just wants to hang out, man. She's busy.
Gonna stare at your ear for the next
at my ear.
few minutes here. Today's episode is all about death by natural causes. Now, I know you guys love this exhibit, this special HMNS only exhibit. It's on the third floor. Right now, it's next to Pompeii, just down the street from the Hall of Ancient Egypt. Which is going to have a lot of new stuff going on over there. We'll talk about that in another episode. But news for you guys right now. Death by Natural Causes, which opened in March of 2018 to wide acclaim. Everybody loved it in town. They still love it. It's closing on August 1st, 2021. That is just in a few months here. And we are lucky enough. I guess, you've been on the podcast, Nicole, now, what, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah, I don't remember why I come here sometimes, but I know that I talked about murder hornets.
Yeah.
And Earth Day, and I don't know. Have I been on for syphilis? Because I love syphilis.
Not yet.
Okay.
That's a really cool out of context.
Talk about syphilis today.
We love out of context comments there. We're just going to throw that on there. I love syphilis. Anyway, you should know Nicole, obviously, for all the amazing things she does at the museum. She's the VP of Education. She, along with Kat, you guys are two of our mistresses of the dark when it comes to the museum. And Nicole, you curated Death by Natural Causes. So guys, when you visit Death by Natural Causes, that's the lady you need to blame for all the amazing creepy crawlies you see in there and the utter terror that you will find yourself around the natural world once you leave it. Or terror and also awe. Now, I find awe.
Craig, the idea was to make people less afraid by teaching them, about risk ratio.
Risk assessment.
For me, it's more of like, it's more of a respect thing now. It's more of like, I'm not going to look at that cow very long because that cow could kill me. I'm not going to fight that alligator after all, because that alligator may, in fact, eat me. So that's what fair. It does for me. So, yeah, just tell us a little bit about the genesis, if you can. And before I let you guys sort of jump on the road and talk a little bit about some other events going on over there, what was the genesis behind Death by Natural Causes? Why do we have it? What was the impetus for it?
So I spend a lot of time using my brain to come up with zany ideas. And I had a sort of a zany idea, and I brought it to the museum president, and he was enthused about it, but we had to work through some things to figure out how to get it to go. But the funny thing is, we did a brainstorming thing, and Kat probably remembers this, in the planetarium about what exhibits we might like to see as staff. And it was probably 15 years ago.
Yep.
And during that brainstorming, Joel said, I want to see an exhibit called Death by Natural Causes. And we were like, great, what is that? We can make it go. And he was like, I don't know. So when I came to him with this idea, then he took that title and this idea, and then they went ching, and they merged together to become what it is today. And when we were coming up with all these ideas, we brainstormed, and basically we had enough stuff to do 2 shows. So we took all the anthropological stuff and all the cultural stuff out of it and just kept it to things in the natural world that would cause death. And then we didn't end up being able to put everything in there. For example, syphilis. I love it so much.
I titled an email to you just the other day as "You like syphilis." syphilis.
Yes.
That's an interesting fact.
And people think it's a weird thing, but it is one thing, this little spirochete in our entire history of the human world that has affected every particular aspect of our culture and the way we do things. So like it affected fashion, it affected the military, it affected exploration, it affected technology. So
it affects bones.
Yeah. So syphilis did not make it into the exhibit, but it could have just been an exhibit on syphilis because every time you turn around, there's a connection.
There is. Disease in history is huge and interesting, and it is addressed in the Death by Natural Causes exhibit to a great extent. Can you tell us a little bit about like our giant viruses and maybe the deadliest thing on our planet?
Yeah, you could arguably say that humans are the most deadly thing on the planet.
I would
correct, indeed.
If we're taking humans out of the equation and we're looking at everything else that's there, so it's sort of a combination. We have one little case that is about viruses in there, and the part of the reason why it's one little case is because scientists are still arguing whether viruses are alive or not. So they are, they basically need a host in order to exist, and they cannot exist without a host. So then that sort of skews the definition of what's alive. So we address it at the beginning of the animal section, kind of like this, and then we pair back up with it at the end. So like we bookend the animal section. When you get ushered into this tiny room that's got fancy curtains on it to show you the most dangerous animal in the world, and it's the mosquito, and the mosquito is the carrier of so many viruses. So
when you said mosquito, I started to itch.
I like reframing what Nicole says in sort of the wrong way. It's sort of a game.
Yes.
So what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, is that viruses are zombies.
Kind of, because the premise of a zombie is that it's a thing that's alive and it mutates.
Is it alive?
Yeah, like the zombie would have been a person who would have gotten bitten and gotten something happen there, and then that person continues to exist, but something was introduced to it. Mm-hmm. So, and it's sort of the opposite with a virus, where this thing's alive, this thing gets introduced, and now the virus gets to continue to be alive.
I need you to draw me a Venn diagram, and I expect that to be turned in at the end of the day. Viruses and zombies.
If I don't put my name at the top of the paper, will I still get credit?
Sure. I know you're writing.
But that being said, God, you just said something and it made me think, wait, zombies in the actual natural world. Have you looked any of this stuff up? It is bananas.
It is gross.
Yeah, so they have, there's a fungus in particular and there's some beetles and there's some other things that do this, but they basically get into a host insect in the case of the fungus, and it's Coreops is the type of fungus, but I don't remember the exact species, and it changes the brain chemistry of the insect while this fungus is growing out. So the insect changes its behavior in order to help the fungus grow. And there are insects that will actually penetrate the exoskeleton of another insect, and they will control it. So it's like little beetles that control ants and stuff. So in conclusion, there are zombies in the natural world, and it's amazing.
So Craig, are you like totally lost on the road that is Nicole and Kat?
No, I'm thinking now about how we could have a zombie exhibition.
I think it should.
Be a great exhibition.
Like, there are enough examples. It may not be a huge show, but there are enough examples. We also have a running debate in this department. This is totally off topic. We're over here on slow zombies versus fast zombies. And I maintain that you can be a fast zombie when you're new, because the rate of decay is such that the older you get, the less of your working parts you have. And then there's a whole other tribe that's like, no, slow zombies only. That's your only option.
Favorite zombie movie?
Shaun of the Dead.
Thank you. Okay, good. I'm glad you said that.
You've got red on you.
Yeah, and another one that I'm fond of is World War Z.
That's a good movie.
I know the science is probably not there, But I mean, it's got Brad Pitt. He's my dude. This is really good, and there's tons of just screaming and weird cataclysmic things going on. So that Shaun of the Dead and World War Z. Kat, you?
I don't really watch TV or movies. I mean, I do.
Well.
But no, not because I'm like better or like
I know,
because I'm attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
And that takes focus.
I thought you would have been a Walking Dead person.
I watched it until the pig scene, and then I was done.
Okay. A lot of people, that was. I will say this: that zombies sort of had their moment in the sun, and then I think we all sort of just got like.
I thought they didn't like the sun, or is that vampires?
Well, no, vampire. Well, vampires had their moment in the sun before that.
Vampires.
Twilight and True Blood.
Okay.
Vampirism.
Zombies.
One of the signs of having congenital syphilis because it messes up with your teeth.
You see, everything comes full circle. Everything comes full circle.
Okay, that's another concept. Why don't we have? Let's run this up the chain. A exhibit about venereal diseases.
You could.
I'm in. I want to, if it weren't for the fact that I love HMNS so much, I would start my own museum, Cat's Dark Museum.
Did you hear about the kid who did the vape pen the other day? And it was one of those Squiffy cartridges, and she ended up getting, I want to say it was chlamydia in her lungs. But
it's not
people
flour.
No, but what people don't understand is
this was not at the museum, folks.
No. This was like national news or international news.
You guys understand that.
But what people don't understand is not all sexually transmitted diseases have a sexual component.
Yes, exactly.
So it's science. It's tracking. It's ways that things happen.
And it's been huge, right? I mean, in a game-changing, life-changing, history-changing way.
But like leprosy. We've got a armadillo in death by natural causes, and armadillos are get in trouble for tracking leprosy or providing leprosy to people. And it usually happens when you eat the uncooked meat or not fully cooked meat. But the reason why armadillos have the ability to get leprosy is because their body temperature and our body temperature are about the same. And we gave it to them most likely. And now they're just returning the favor. I only know useless information, Craig. Your face right now. Someone screenshot Craig's face.
That should be the opening part of this podcast.
Yeah, just not enough coffee today.
I'm gonna do something that I hardly ever do and get us back on track.
Well, I was about to say that I will say this, that I'm not a parent, but I know that having a venereal disease or STD exhibition at the museum, parents would love that. Like parents would be like, "Yeah, go to the museum, see what's out there."
I would bring my kid. I would bring my kid to it. I mean,
yeah, kind of like a Scared Straight type thing. Like it'd be like, "Yeah, there you go." And you're like, "Oh god."
Just a know about it thing.
Stay in the paleo hall.
Watch me go and do a thing that is not in my nature. So, what do you think? And I'm actually think I know the answer to this, so I'm kind of doing a cat check. What do you think the overall message that you had in mind when you were guys were putting this together? And I got to watch kind of from a front row seat and every once in a while jump in and help a little bit. But what was your overall message that you wanted to kind of get across with death by natural causes?
So I would say that it's sort of, there's more than one message, but the first one is the things that you are afraid of are not the things you need to be afraid of. So everybody is afraid of sharks and snakes and alligators, but as Craig pointed out, you are more likely to get killed by a cow than you are a shark.
And hot dogs are probably more dangerous than both.
Yeah, hot dogs are way more dangerous, and
but
heart attack is
amazingly tasty, though.
Yeah, heart disease is what kills most Americans, or actually worldwide kills most people. So you're not what you're afraid of. It's not what you think you should be afraid of. And there's some text panels in there and some activities to talk to you about risk assessment and why we're bad at assessing risk. And then the other thing is all these things that you may be afraid of, like. They do not care about you. So, for example, cone snails are amazing. They have all these cocktail combinations of all these venoms that they can give you. And the reason why they're so dangerous to humans is because when they get picked up, one, they sting you a whole bunch real quick, but they can pick and choose which cocktail they give to things and what circumstance. So when they get picked up out of the water by ding-dong humans and then you're looking at them and they inject you, what they inject you with is actually very similar to insulin. So it suppresses your system and you just sort of have go into a diabetic coma. And then that's really dangerous if you're underwater. So
You can't
that
breathe
cone
water.
snail did not evolve a million years ago to be like, you know what? I'm going to keep track of those humans and one day I'm going to get one. Like they do not care about you. So stop thinking about it in terms of how things are being done to you. But at the same time, those processes that these animals have, these evolutionary adaptations, can be used for good. So, for example, ergot poisoning, which is a real problem. It's the same thing that they make LSD out of, and it was probably the thing that caused the Salem witch trials. But it will kill people. It's really bad for you. But they also use that medication for women in childbirth because it constricts blood vessels and it keeps them from bleeding. Yeah. There's also the venomous secretions in the mouth of a Gila monster can extend insulin. Like the insulin uptake in your body, it can extend it. We also have the cone snail because it is of these different cocktail concoctions it has. They're trying to figure out how to harvest it so that they can have a non-opioid pain, not pain reliever, but you know what I mean. So like there are things that are bad for us if you are doing it wrong and you're touching venomous snakes, let's say, but those same things can be used for good. It's just in the practical application.
So you were talking about that, and my brain, as it does, went to horseshoe crabs and blue blood and
Yes.
medical things. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know I've seen a horseshoe crab in there. Why are they dangerous? Question mark.
The horseshoe crab is not upstairs in the exhibit, but we do have one down here. But you may be thinking about when we shot it for the tours we were doing for Celebration Earth Month.
That's probably what it is. Yep.
But if you'd like to see that video, folks, you can go to our YouTube channel and Facebook. Yeah, so I talked a little bit about the horseshoe crab, and it's got blue copper-based blood. So if you've seen Star Wars when Luke's drinking that weird blue milk on Tatooine, it looks like that. That's what their blood looks like. But it has a particular, it's a metacyte inside of it, and it basically causes an imperfection or an impurity to get surrounded by this stuff, kind of like our white blood cells do, and it causes it to gel up. So they use it in like the COVID vaccines that we're getting right now. They have a little bit of this in there so that if it has any contaminant introduced into it, the whole bottle sort of gels up and it's no longer injectable. So that keeps you safe. Thanks, science.
Science is great.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and Craig could probably say a lot about Star Wars.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Blue milk. You're with me, though.
There's Baby Yoda right there.
Aw.
Or Grogu. Sorry, Grogu. Grogu. His name's not Baby Yoda. It's Grogu.
Is it important to know? I mean, he's Yoda, right?
No, he's not Yoda. He's an unknown species.
Oh.
He happens to look like Yoda, but his name is Grogu, and he's a 50-year-old Jedi.
Okay.
And because this species, they grow differently than we do.
Okay.
And they're very cute, and they make beautiful memes.
They do.
Cole's going to owe me a Venn diagram, and Craig, your homework is going to be to create a dichotomous key for me for Yoda-like characters. So
Craig's face just went blank.
I'm like, but that's Grogu, and he's cute.
He is.
I can write about that.
I think actually that might be an interesting science blog. Pokemon's coming back too, and I don't know why the two seem similar to me, but they do. Creatures.
The next time we have a class on dichotomous keys, you'll have to come down and take it with us.
There we go. Yeah, so I can know what you guys. That's a fun thing about my capacity at the museum, that I'm a reporter for the museum, but then I'm also learning alongside you guys.
You get to do a lot of fun stuff with us.
I try.
Speaking of which, and this is sort of tangentially related, speaking of classes, next week after this podcast is put up, so following week, you should be able to go to our website, hms.org, and you can click because Kat is teaching some CSI classes this summer. So if you're into the dark and the weird and the death and the crime, we're doing CSI classes, and then we also have some tours of death by natural causes the summer before it goes.
Behind the scenes tours?
Behind the scenes tours. Because of crowds and all that, we're doing them at 9:30 on Saturdays. I'm looking. Yeah, 9 on Saturdays so that we can not have to worry about crowds. And then I think May 11th, we're also doing a lecture on the Radium Girls.
Yes, we are.
Radium was a bananas time in America's, and actually the world's life. We made some real poor choices.
One thing that whole exhibit has taught me is how many poor choices we've made over time. That could be a lesson in itself. Don't eat that mushroom. Don't drink that radium.
Yeah. So when they discovered radium, they knew that it was extra energy, and who doesn't need some extra energy, right? So they just started putting radium in everything. So, for example, they had perfumes, creams, facial powders, lipsticks. They also had radium suppositories that was supposed to give you a pep in your step and in your love life. They had radioactive wool that was
Why did they think that, though? Like, what was the science behind that?
It glows, Craig.
Yeah, it's extra energy.
So I've always been excited by that concept that, it takes a lot along the way. We sort of we learn, the more things we learn about, like, oh, it's glowing. That's not good. Yeah. Like, we finally learned that, but at the time we're like, hey, it's glow. It's fine.
Rub it on my cheeks because I want to glow. I want to look radiant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, what we'll know in 200 years from now.
Yeah. We'll look back 200 years and be like, those idiots.
I can't believe you guys are putting deodorant on your bodies. Like, really? Yep. Drinking milk? Okay. Like, yeah, like that's because, we're still, you guys can talk about this. We're, maybe a few hundred years removed from leeches being used as a medical device?
We still use them.
Yeah. But there's bloodletting, rather. Bloodletting.
Yep. We still bloodlet, but not as much. We're not as passionate about our bloodletting.
We're not cutting into our bodies and saying this is gonna, we're getting like emotions out. We're not going, I'm gonna, bleed out all of my sadness.
Your hot-bloodedness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a couple diseases where people produce too much blood, but instead of bloodletting, you actually go to a place where you're not going to get a horrible infection. And they keep track of your business. Mm-hmm. We still use leeches, and it's one of the best ways to cure a couple diseases. So one of the things that's changed in medical history is how we treat snake bites, snake envenomations. And they used to, like, you've all seen True Grit, where like they amputate an arm, where they cut like a giant X and they suck the blood out. That is a terrible plan. Don't do that. The current plan is that you need to remain calm. If you remain calm, you'll be fine. Then you keep your bite elevated to the level of your heart, and you do not squish it off. Don't try to restrict the blood flow. Don't do anything to it, but keep it clean, and just go to the hospital very calmly. There's a good app if this is a concern for you and you want to know how to deal with a snake bite, called Snakebite 911. There's two of them. So one's for first responders and one's for just random people who are walking in the woods. So make sure you get the right one. But they have a thing where they can tell you like where the nearest hospital is, and they can tell you they'll give you cues to take pictures so they can see how far up your arm it's going and how fast it's traveling, so that they know how to treat you when you get to the hospital, because that's part of keeping track of how much antivenom they need to give you. If at all. A lot of snake bites.
You can use your Earth Day app. What is it?
iNaturalist? Yeah, you can use iNaturalist to take a picture of the snake.
iNaturalist takes different views.
Yeah, after the snake bites you, and you can go, oh, what a pretty snake. Ow. Click. Here we go. What kind of snake was that? Oh, it's a pretty one. I have to go.
It shows your level of commitment, Craig. We expect total commitment.
But almost always snake bites are a result of a human being dumb, not the snake being
Agreed.
dumb. Have you heard, I don't know if you've been through the exhibit and listened to the audio guide? Like, it's a secret.
Yes.
It's a secret that the audio guide is different than the text panels, but and it's free. But one of the things on there is talking about the 7 T's of envenomation, and I will absolutely forget one of them. But it's sort of a joke / it's actually a thing with emergency room doctors and toxicologists. And the 7 T's are testosterone, because most people who get bit are men usually under the age of 25.
I know where this is going. Yes.
Yeah, tequila, because a lot of times the snake bite is, precipitated by, here, hold my beer and watch this. So it's like testosterone, tequila, trucks,
yeah,
t-shirts, tattoos.
Oh,
teasing.
4.
Yeah, teasing and teeth. So, like, there's a tattoo and teeth corollary. Like, if you have a lot of tattoos but not very many teeth, you're also higher up on the scale of people who are probably going to get bitten.
And I have a truck.
Yeah, so you're not looking good there, bud.
There we go.
Smile. He's got all his teeth, though.
I got all my teeth.
Yeah.
But I don't drink. So then I guess, so
5.
like, not tequila. I can't think of, probably just coffee. So coffee would make
theobromine.
But now I think I've been around animals so much, and especially at the museum and just in my reporter life of, reporting about animals and animal upkeep and everything and working all around town. Like, I know better now, you keep your distance from things like that. Alligators, I know better. Not that before I was a reporter, I was like in the habit of just running up to an alligator or throwing, raw chicken parts at an alligator. But I sort of now, and I think especially with the Death by Natural Causes exhibit, you get an idea that you need to have a healthy fear of some of these things, but also understand, you need to give them distance. You have respect for these animals that can hurt you. I know we have a snake in there that is pretty much like one of the most like deadly things that we even have on site.
Yeah, we have two pit vipers in there. One is the Western Diamondback rattlesnake. His name is Doorbell. And then we have a Mojave rattlesnake in there. And the Mojave, like, they are not necessarily the most venomous things on the earth, but
they're beautiful.
Mojave is tricky. Yeah, because he's got AB venom.
And is his name Nope?
Yeah, occasionally they call him the Nope Rope. But
they're so beautiful, though. That's the thing, is that, that's the cool part about these things, that they're so deadly to us. We're so, they could be potentially very dangerous, but they're so beautiful. So it's like, look, but don't touch, obviously. And, you have this distance between us and them, but we also have a respect for it.
If someone right now came into your house, like the door behind you open, and somebody came in and started poking you with a stick, you'd be like, what is happening?
I would probably take issue.
Yes. So, like, why would the snake be any different? It was minding its own business, doing its thing, and all of a sudden some ding-dong's got a stick, like, ding, 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 ding.
Have you ever had, this is probably a good question for both of y'all, but after somebody has experienced death by natural causes, that they've wanted to get into sort of like learning about more, like, has that, it's only been open now 3 years, but I'm sure that has sparked interest in somebody walking through there, and they wanted to study
2.5 years longer than it was anticipated being open. Thank you.
Yeah, have you had anybody that's come to tell you or told us at the museum, the reason I want to be, a herpetologist is because of this exhibit, or things like that?
I haven't had anybody say that, but I have had people who tell me that they've been through the exhibit more than like a handful of times. Like, there's somebody who's been like 10 or 12 times.
I have a friend that's been like 8 times. And there's a lot to read, and that I think is a really good thing to highlight. It's very different than some exhibits, and all exhibits have the way they're put together and their strong points. But this one put together by educators, and so there's a lot of information. So if you're going to come, you need to plan some time.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to get through, and it's really engaging, and it's really exciting material. in all.
I will say this, to your point a minute ago, that's the other thing. When it opened in March of 2018, because I remember I was at the Chronicle and we wrote about it and everything, and it was a huge deal. We had really amazing billboards, I remember at the time, that kind of thing. I bet that was really special too, Nicole, to have like an exhibit you helped create, billboard in town for strangers that saw that. I can only imagine what that was like.
Yeah, the thing that was we're gonna have some feels. Are you guys ready?
Oh,
Let's do it. Group hug.
Okay, so the thing that I liked the best about the opening, because like I'm very task oriented, very goal oriented, and I was like, so got to the opening, great, did the thing, and once we've got to tick the box off, I can put it on my shelf. But for the opening, my dad came down. And then my brother, who used to work here at this museum, and his family came. And my oldest nephew was excited to read all the text panels, which I was like, he's a teenager. And he's come back since then with friends. But my mom died in 2016, so she didn't get to see the exhibit open. But in cleaning out like stuff and looking for things, we found some radium jars, some uranium glass that my mom just had, and it was in a box someplace. So I said, can I take this? And my dad was like, yeah, I don't care. It's been in this box for 20 years. Sure. So that actually, my family's uranium glass is up there. And my dad, when he was going through the exhibit, when it opened, saw the thing that says on loan from Bill and Dorothy. And I don't know if I should say my parents' names out loud. Don't pay attention to that. From on loan from my family. And my dad was so excited, and he just kept he would disappear around the corner, and then you wouldn't see him, and he'd be like, look right here. Look right here. See right there? See how this says? That's my name. And I was like, Dad, do you know these people? And he was like, no.
He was just so proud that he had a part of this.
He's the best anyway. He's one of the first people I met outside of the museum at the museum. We opened a chemistry hall 20 something years ago.
Yeah, he just sent me pictures of a snake skin that he found on his property that was about 7 feet long. So I told him to save it for me so we could identify it.
So the exhibit opened in March of 2018, wide acclaim, everybody loved it. It wasn't supposed to be open for 3 years.
No.
Because I even remember when I started at the museum at the end of 2018, going they were saying okay, this is coming, this part's, all these things are happening here. And by the way, DB&C is closing soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a bummer, because I didn't want to tell you guys on social media. I felt bad. I felt because everybody had grown to love it. And then it just kept on getting extended and extended. And it was cool. And then I think at one point, us in the marketing team, we were just like, well, it's never going to leave, right? And then now it's leaving, obviously, to make room for a really big, fancy thing we have coming in involving gold and the Egyptians. And we'll talk about that later. But now
podcast.
Now, it's a different podcast.
Spoiler.
But now I'm sad because I remember going up into DB&C all the time just to take amazing little photos and stuff and to show you guys on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, all these things. It's going to be a bummer not seeing that. And yeah.
I want the cat to come live in my office.
So yeah, when it does come down, we're going to basically store all the components because we're not 100% sure what's going to happen. We've got 4 different tracks of things that could happen with it after that. But I would say, and you referred to Kat and I as being dark and creepy earlier, but
I didn't mean that. I meant that more that's obviously I'm creepy too. So
it's a compliment. It's
a compliment, folks.
We're not offended.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
we're all high-fiving each other here, guys. This is not, yeah. But no, so the stuff's all going to go in storage then.
Well, it's going to be going storage for a hot minute.
Okay.
But my point was that you referred to Kat and I as dark and creepy, but which we get a lot. But it's not necessarily that we're dark and creepy. It's just we're not afraid to explore things that are sort of on the bounds of stuff what's appropriate. So we have a lot of information between the two of us about death and murder, but also like funeral practices in other cultures and what happens to decomposing bodies, because we're viewing it from the lens of science. And we can sort of take a step back from saying, okay, if you're talking about death, then I have to think about my own mortality, and I have to think about my parents' mortality, and I have to think about, all these things that are combined. And so I think part of the reason why it's been so popular and part of the reason why we kept extending it is, one, people kept coming to it. But it's because it gives people sort of a safe space to ask questions and to know about things that would be uncomfortable otherwise. Sort of frames it in a different light. And if you haven't been to the exhibit, it's actually kind of funny. There's a bunch of, we intended for it to be lighthearted because we are talking about a darker subject.
It is tongue in cheek in certain instances where it's sort of, we're not here very long. Yeah. What's the George Strait song? I'm here for a good time, not for a long time. Mm-hmm. I'm probably butchering that. I'm a horrible George Strait fan now. But yeah, you walk out of the exhibit and you don't feel fearful as much as the natural world. As I said earlier, you feel in awe of it, and you also have a very healthy respect for it.
And it's a nice little memento mori of like the 21st century. Mm-hmm. Memento mori fits in really nicely too, because it's kind of got a Victorian theme. Even though that's an older idea, but it is a remembrance of life is short. Mm-hmm. Live well and watch out for snakes.
I will say, and even Body Worlds is the same way too. I mean, that's a little bit different, obviously, but I know that whenever we first got Body Worlds, I walk through it and you don't feel creeped out. You're more of like, that's all we are. These are our little bodies. I'm always the spiritual one on here, I feel like.
Yes, you are.
These are just our little vehicles we're all walking around in, and
little meat sacks.
And they're so we have to be patient with them, and we need to be careful with them, and just take care of yourself. That's the thing that I get, and I even get that from Death by Natural Causes too, is that it is, you do walk in there, and I can imagine some people who've seen it get very jarred by it. They're very I feel humbled by it, if anything. Mm-hmm. That I'm just
my job is to make you less serious. Mm-hmm. In to go, who is the Men in Black character that has the meat suit? Who's the meat suit guy? Edward.
Vincent D'Onofrio is the character. Yeah.
There you go.
Edward suit.
Edward suit.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite part of that movie. Sorry. Yeah. See, I'm the distractor, the great distractor.
No. And I think that is if anything, the lasting legacy from Death by Natural Causes should be the awe and the respect that it brings for our natural world. And I think in general, that's what HMNS does really well too.
What's your favorite part, Greg, just of the exhibit? What's your favorite?
I really love the live animals that we have in there. I like seeing that stuff.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, I like that. And I love all the taxidermy. I think there's the other thing there about the hippo. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the first things I remember seeing in there was the hippo, and you realize hippos are, they're fun and cute, but then you're like, they will really
kill you.
Scary. But yeah, I think you walk in there and you feel this awe in nature that, we may have, quote, dominion over, these creatures in there, but at any moment in time, that can get flipped. And you have to have respect and reverence for some of these creatures. Even if you don't like them, even if they're scary to you, they still deserve to exist and to coincide next to us. So, yeah.
Nicole, what's your favorite piece?
I was to say, Kat, in sort of a self-gratifying way, what's your favorite?
I have to pick. I, of course, am a Black Death fan, which, again, sounds creepy.
Miss Black Death?
Miss Black Death. Mrs. Black Death, if you're nasty. Sorry, Janet Jackson. I think the Plague Doctor is my favorite because it's so interesting, and I think he is so attention grabbing and just something that anytime anybody sees it, they're just immediately attracted and are like.
And he's wearing a mask.
He is wearing a mask.
That was the funny thing was that I remember, this is a funny little aside for you guys that are, the social media fans of the museum, HMNS and everything we do over there, that I remember when we were locked down for a few months there. And I remember going, wow, like, should we use the photo that Mike took of the plague doctor?
That was me.
Yeah, we were like, should we use that? Like, is that, but it also too, I mean, definitely the plague is much different than COVID-19, but it was sort of this, revisitation of these certain things that happen in our world, in our natural world, that occur, that they keep on coming around, like maybe one day there will be an exhibit, in 100, 200 years, and it'll be, a person wearing, a cloth mask or something, or a face shield. And like, that's what they did in 2020 when they had their COVID-19.
And of course I have a plague doctor suit, and that was a Halloween thing. And he did a creepy one of walking.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And that place has always just lent itself to so many amazing photos.
I was sweaty.
I would say
so many amazing photos from Death by Natural Causes. Guys, I give it up to y'all. I mean, y'all are the ones that buoy this entire thing. I'm just over here laughing and pointing at Grogu behind me.
You got sister treatment today.
Definitely come see Death by Natural Causes at the museum. You only have until August 1st, 2021. We're not lying to you. It actually is coming down. Like, it's not one of those
cannot
things.
Be there.
It will not be there. It cannot be there. And then maybe down the line, it may show up again. You never know, guys.
And I'm just picturing a going out of business sale for the Oriental carpets. That never, ever goes out of business. You've never seen that?
Yeah, like there's one down by the Galleria they've been going out of business for about 15 years.
Yep.
But this time it's real.
All right. Kat, Nicole, as always, it's been amazing. Go see Death by Natural Causes. It's up on the 3rd floor at the museum. Check out HMNS.org for tickets, and also check out HMNS.org for all the events this summer surrounding Death by Natural Causes. And you just might meet Nicole or Kat. There you go.
You've been warned.
Right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.